A new study in China shows the likelihood of catching the CCP virus from someone who's asymptomatic. This as asymptomatic cases continue rising. A Wuhan resident whose mother passed away from the virus is furious about the government's cover-up and asks the regime to take responsibility. At risk to his own life, a Chinese student is calling for the Chinese ruling party and leader to step down. He tells us his motivations for doing so. The world's largest hospital ship arriving in New York City today to support local hospitals feeling the strain of the CCP virus. For many, it's a symbol of hope. And the Netherlands has recalled 600,000 medical masks sent from China for failing to meet quality standards. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Chinese authorities say there's only around one new coronavirus case a day, but video surfacing online shows a more severe situation. A March 29th video shows police arriving at the railway station at Tianmen City in Hubei province for a suspected severe case. An ambulance and medical personnel then arrive.
请大家注意安全，不要扎堆啊！尽量到屋里，不要出门啊！这几天。
The person filming says the police just arrived at the railway station. There's a patient in critical condition. Please be careful and don't stay together. Try to stay indoors and don't come out. A video from the same day shows a person suddenly collapsing in Dalian City. Passers-by were too scared to go near. Even cars didn't stop. They went around him instead. Some netizens commented, keeping cases at zero is a political goal. Who would be brave enough to report new cases? The netizen added, passerbys aren't afraid of getting infected. They are afraid of having to self-isolate for 14 days at their own expense. Asymptomatic cases seem to be growing in China. In recent days, China reported 3 cases in 3 provinces. Even though the figures are false, all of the cases are reportedly from asymptomatic patients. According to a recent Chinese study, you are less likely to catch the virus from someone who is asymptomatic, but it's still very possible. For someone showing symptoms, the chance of infection was 6.3%, compared with 4.1% with asymptomatic patients. These figures are based on the methodology of the study. And many places in China seem to be closing their doors again to prevent the continued spread of the virus. Chinese cinemas had planned to reopen soon, but according to Chinese media, on March 27th, the China Film Administration told all cinemas in China not to reopen. If some cinemas had already reopened, they should close again, till further notice. 3 sightseeing towers, the Oriental Pearl Tower, Jinmao Tower, and Shanghai Tower, will be closed from March 30th. The 3 towers had reopened again on March 12th after reports the outbreak had passed. The aquarium, Madame Tussauds in Shanghai, and some other tourist sites will also close. On March 28th, a netizen in Qingdao City complained that he went to a karaoke bar, but before he finished, the bar said it was closing till further notice. The owner said the Cultural Tourism Bureau of China told all karaoke bars, regular bars, and internet cafes across the country to close. The Netherlands has recalled 600,000 masks sent from China. They failed to meet quality standards. The Dutch government had ordered 1.3 million medical masks from China, but hundreds of thousands of them did not protect the face properly or had detective filters. We previously reported on the Czech Republic and Spain receiving unreliable virus test kits from China. You can now add Turkey to the list. Turkish officials said on March 27th the accuracy rate of Chinese-made tests it received was only 30 to 35%. A Wuhan resident whose mom died from the CCP virus is furious by the government's cover-up and wants the Chinese regime to apologize for its sin. NTD Xu Wenrong has the story.
He carried his mother as she slowly died, willing to give up his own life to save hers, but then she just passed away.
You gave me my life. Now I want to give mine to save yours.
Mr. Ding's mother caught the CCP virus in February. She passed away soon after getting infected. He regrets the outbreak was covered up for so long.
If the government told us the truth 20 days before the outbreak, we could have all started wearing masks and saved tens of thousands of lives.
He got a call on March 23rd to pick up his mother's urn. He wasn't allowed to bring any other family members. Neither was he allowed to hold a proper burial ceremony.
The government has not fulfilled its responsibilities. It hasn't expressed condolences to the families of the deceased, not even a simple statement. It forced us to bury my mother silently, to limit the number of people at the funeral. No rituals and no funeral music.
Many families have died during the outbreak. He says being at the hospital is hell on earth.
Death is right there. Everyone is numb. They even forget to cry. Too much death. Too much. Our rights have been violated. We are victims. This is a massacre. The murderer is still at large. How can I accept that?
He says the Chinese regime should be held accountable. Videos have been circulating online. Families lining up outside funeral homes to collect the ashes of loved ones. Seeing these videos upsets Mr. Ding even more.
So many people have lost loved ones for no reason. The government hasn't apologized, and the government hasn't accepted any responsibility. There is no sympathy.
He added that the lies can only be covered with more lies, and this can't hold for long. Mr. Ding says that the death toll is certainly more than 10 times the official figure. He hopes the dead will see justice.
Risking arrest, a young Chinese student is calling for the Chinese Communist Party to step down. He told us what gives him the courage. NTD's Juliet Song has the story.
Risking his own life, a Chinese student is taking to Twitter to speak out against the ruling party and its leader using his real name.
习近平下课，共产党下课。
In the post, he wrote, "Will this world be okay? I hope I can use blood to awaken people's conscience." In an online interview, Zhang told us why he wants to speak out. He said, "The new virus epidemic was a trigger for me. It compelled me to demand that the party step down. What I can't tolerate the most is the CCP blinding people with lies and imprisoning people behind high walls." And Zhang wasn't like this before.
曾经我也是一名中共的小粉红，是翻墙之后慢慢认清共产党邪恶的嘴脸。
Little Pink refers to China's new generation of nationalistic internet trolls. Mostly youth, they defend the ruling party against any criticism. After having access to uncensored information, Zhang learned the truth about the Tiananmen Square massacre and the persecution of the spiritual practice Falun Gong, as well as Tibetans and Uyghurs. He said he knows now that the party has always lied. Other outspoken critics also inspired him, like Ren Zhiqiang, a Chinese tycoon who vanished recently after criticizing Chinese leader Xi Jinping. He said his case touched me deeply. It gave me the courage to demand that the CCP step down. He's also pained by seeing his friends brainwashed by the propaganda. He says they think he's crazy when he tells them the virus was able to spread because of censorship. He says he's seen the party's brainwashing succeed, saying a very good friend of mine was also deceived by the CCP's lies. She's a teacher, and she'll educate future generations of little pink internet trolls.
到今天，他已经将魔爪伸向了全世界，而大家还都视而不见，甚至还在歌功颂德，我实在无法忍受。看到香港和台湾人民勇敢地对抗共产党。 我也想发出自己的声音，呼吁大家认清共产党的真面目，团结起来推倒面前的那堵墙。
The wall refers to China's political system. Posting this video is putting Zhang's life at risk.
或许我不能亲眼看到共产党灭亡的那天了，也不知道这个视频能不能被大家看到。总之，这个世界我来过。
Several days ago, Zhang's WeChat account was permanently terminated after he posted on his WeChat account, "Xi Jinping stepped down, Chinese Communist Party stepped down." This morning, he posted on Twitter saying he had been summoned by police and detained for 5 days because of his WeChat post. His most recent Twitter post is the video asking the CCP to step down. Li Xinan and Juliet Song, NTD News, New York.
Hospitals in New York City are struggling to keep up with the number of patients coming in who are infected with the CCP virus. Today, the city has nearly 34,000 cases and 775 deaths from the virus. The hospital ship USNS Comfort has arrived today to take some of the burden off the city's hospitals. NTD's Kevin Hogan has the story.
One of the largest hospital ships in the world arriving in New York City to provide relief for city hospitals swamped with patients infected with the CCP virus. The USNS Comfort has 12 operating rooms and 1,000 beds, and most of them will be ready immediately. The floating hospital not treating patients with the virus, but will relieve hospitals of non-infected patients who need urgent care. The mayor saying the ship is more than just its physical form.
It's also about hope. It's also about boosting the morale of New Yorkers who are going through so much. It's about saying to our heroes in those hospitals that help has come.
The last time the USNS Comfort came to New York City was right after 9/11 to provide support as part of Operation Noble Eagle. Now she's back at this time of crisis to provide critical surge hospital capacity.
This ship represents all that is good about the American people. All that is generous, all that is ready, responsive, and resolute.
Patients on the Comfort will not have to pay any medical expenses, with the federal government picking up the tab, as we are in a state of emergency. A Vietnam War vet says hospital ships like these come with some of the world's best anesthesiologists, trauma teams, medical doctors, and much more.
It's an emotion hard to express. It's like an elation, like, yeah, there's hope. And she came and she's here. And that's the way I felt today.
This 70,000-ton former oil tanker, equipped with a helipad, oxygen-producing plants, and its own pharmacy. And the Rear Admiral assuring every sailor, every Marine, and every civilian on this mission proudly stands ready to serve the people of New York City. Kevin Hogan, NTD News, New York.
And New York's Central Park got its own emergency field hospital. It's a 68-bed setup, and the Good Samaritans that built it have also made one in Italy. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more from Manhattan.
On the northeast side of Central Park, a 68-bed emergency field hospital is going up. Soon ready to take in patients with the CCP virus, also known as COVID-19. The crisis relief organization Samaritan's Purse already has a field hospital set up in Italy to help with the pandemic, and now they're here to take on some of New York's burden.
We have the same type hospital setup that is actually made specifically for their needs there in Italy, and they are a respiratory care unit as well as seeing patients in the ICU just like we do here, in the wards just like we do here.
The hospital will have 10 ICU beds, and it will only take in patients sent from Mount Sinai Hospital, which asked for their help. Kelly said God has given her the tools she needs to help, and that faith plays an important role in the pandemic.
Faith plays a huge role in the way that we treat this pandemic and in the way that people treat the pandemic. They're relying more and more on their faith, and I think that God is showing up in a big way. And this hospital is an example of the way that God is showing up right here in New York City and in Italy to care for the people that he loves.
Governor Cuomo asked hospitals last week to increase their bed capacity by 50%, and other areas are also looking to expand their bed capacities to the outdoors.
What does that burden do? It takes it out of the hospital and puts them into different field tents. That is what is taking place in New York City, and that is what we need out here on Long Island.
As of Monday, over 9,500 people infected with the virus are hospitalized in the state. Miguel Moreno, NTD News, New York.
And in the UK, a senior minister says Communist China has not shared accurate numbers on the outbreak. UK government sources say the CCP will face a reckoning once the pandemic is over. Jane Worrell has the story.
UK Cabinet Minister Michael Gove suggested on Sunday that international response to the virus was hindered by a lack of information coming from China. While the first documented case of the CCP virus was in early December, China didn't officially tell the World Health Organization until several weeks later. Speaking on the BBC, Gove said that some of the reporting from China was not clear about the scale, the nature and the infectiousness of the virus. The Mail on Sunday reported that UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson received warning that China's actual cases could be much higher than those reported. Scientific advisors said China's true numbers could be downplayed by a factor of 15 to 40 times. A Downing Street source told the paper the priority now is to deal with the crisis, but everybody knows there has to be a reckoning when all this is over. In a highly critical article, the former Conservative leader Ian Duncan Smith said it's time for the UK government to rethink its relationship with Beijing. Jane Worrell, NTD News, London.
A new version of a breathing aid that can help coronavirus patients has been developed in less than a week by a team involving Mercedes Formula One and is being trialed at London hospitals.
At University College London Hospital, the CPAP, or Continuous Positive Airway Pressure device, is being tested. The UK is facing a shortage of ventilators, which are used for patients who can't breathe on their own. Healthcare workers are looking for new ways to get around the shortage.
If we can have a bridge, a halfway house, where you need more than an oxygen mask, but less than an invasive ventilator, then hopefully many patients can be prevented from needing to go on to a ventilator.
50% of patients given CPAP in Italy didn't need a ventilator. The CPAP does not require the patient to go through invasive procedures, such as inserting a tube into the patient's windpipe.
With this, the patient can be spontaneously breathing, communicating, and hopefully better oxygenating.
The device was developed by Mercedes in a matter of days, a process that usually takes years. It's now been approved for use. 100 of the machines will be delivered to University College London Hospital for trials, before being rolled out to other hospitals.
And now a look on how the spread of the CCP virus is affecting the world. Israel's prime minister decided to self-isolate, while in the Netherlands, wicked thieves used the shutdown for their own good.
The US now has over 150,000 confirmed cases. Meanwhile, Italy, which has a much smaller population, has reached over 100,000 confirmed cases. Over 60 Italian doctors have already been lost in the fight against the virus. And on Monday alone, France recorded over 400 new deaths. In Israel, the spread of the virus has reached parliament. After a government aide tested positive, the country's prime minister announced he will begin to self-isolate. Likewise, Wimbledon organizers will announce the cancellation of the grassroots Grand Slam this week. The vice president of the German Tennis Federation said it's unthinkable to hold an international tennis tournament with all of the travel restrictions that are currently in place. While in Austria, hotels are now banned for tourism. The move comes as a new measure to halt virus spread ahead of the Easter holidays. And in the Netherlands, thieves have stolen a Van Gogh painting from a museum that is currently closed. The painting, titled Spring Garden, has been added to Interpol's list of stolen artwork.
Spanish opera star Placido Domingo has been hospitalized in Mexico with complications related to the coronavirus. Domingo's spokesperson said he is doing well and is responding to treatment. Last Sunday, the singer posted on his Facebook page that he had tested positive for the coronavirus. And it's been decided. The Tokyo Olympic Games will now take place next July. The Games will then run until August 8th.
Tokyo 2020 President Yoshiro Mori said on Monday that suggestions had been reported to the International Olympic Committee, including ones to hold the Games either in spring or summer in 2021.
Opinions on both sides have been compiled. Whether spring or summer, there are opinions for both options. They both have advantages and disadvantages that are being compared and then will be decided. This has also been reported to International Olympic Committee Chairman Thomas Bach.
Later that day, the committee announced in a statement that a new date for the Tokyo Olympics had been decided. It's now set to start on July 23, 2021 and run until August 8th. IOC President Thomas Bach said in the statement that he's confident that the committee can master the unprecedented challenge. He noted cooperation between the IOC, the Tokyo 2020 Organizing Committee, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government, the Japanese government, and stakeholders. He added that the Tokyo Olympic Games can be a light at the end of this tunnel. The committee says the decision to postpone was taken to protect the health of the athletes and everyone involved, and to support the containment of the virus. The Paralympic Games will also run next year from August 24th to September 5th, just 5 months before the start of the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing.
Indian Prime Minister asked the nation's poor for forgiveness on Sunday. This as the CCP virus lockdown sees an increasing economic and human toll.
The crowds kept fleeing on Sunday as thousands of migrant workers tried to escape from India's capital, New Delhi, to their native villages after Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi introduced a 21-day nationwide lockdown to stem the spread of the deadly coronavirus. Desperate workers clambered on top of buses, while others, resigned to the heaving mobs, turned to leave on foot. The overwhelming numbers of people migrating threatens to spread the disease further into the hinterland, the exact opposite of the government's aim for social distancing. And Modi's decision to lock down the country has especially stung the 120 million migrant labourers, leaving them without a way to earn wages, afford rent, or even food, like worker Lali Devi.
It's been 3 days and we have been walking with children. We are 7 in total. We are in a lot of trouble. Why is the government stopping us? We just want to go to our village.
The chaos prompted Modi to ask the nation's poor for forgiveness in a nationwide radio address. But criticism has erupted, with the hashtag #ModiMadeDisaster trending on Twitter, questioning Modi's lack of a contingency plan. The government has announced a nearly $23 billion stimulus plan to provide direct cash transfers and food handouts. But international and local economists say this isn't enough. People have gathered in public squares demanding transport to their hometowns. But when they arrive to their village, they face another challenge: overcrowded family homes, pushing some to climb trees and create a makeshift bed so they can isolate for 14 days.
Doctors directed us to stay at home and practice social distancing, but we don't have personal rooms in our houses. It was decided in the village that we should be isolated, so now we're living in a tree.
Meanwhile, back in the city, some railway coaches are being turned into isolation wards for patients with the virus.
As much of the planet shelters indoors to prevent the spread of the virus, most major airways are under lockdown too. International air travel has been reduced by as much as half across much of the world.
Data from the flight tracking website FlightRadar24.com on Monday showed traffic on most of the major international routes dramatically reduced. According to the website, commercial flights decreased 55% in the final week of March 2020 compared to 2019. It expects the trend to continue as airlines remove additional flights from their schedules. Italy, one of the hardest hit countries by the pandemic, had a mere 4 domestic flights aloft at the middle of the day. Major hubs in Northern Europe hardly saw any traffic. The skies above Spain, Portugal, and Paris were virtually deserted. London, where one plane normally lands every minute during weekdays, saw a mere handful of flights. In Moscow, where a shutdown has just come into force, saw only local flights to and from its Sheremetyevo and Domodedovo airports. And in the U.S., the major hubs of New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Washington, and Atlanta saw sharply reduced traffic. But probably the most striking was India, where a lockdown often brutally enforced by local police had cut the number of aircraft to a small handful over the entire subcontinent.
As millions of Americans shelter inside their homes, many workers deemed essential continue to work around the clock. They're delivering food, packages, stocking grocery shelves, and operating public transit.
As millions stay home, millions are out risking exposure to the virus on the front lines.
Yes, delivering. I'm a New Yorker. I typically don't get scared of anything. But you know what? It's essential that I'm out here.
They're not doctors and nurses, but they are taking care of Americans.
Be safe, okay?
From Tony Mazzella, a UPS driver, to grocers, to food delivery personnel.
Package right down there. That's yours?
All deemed critical industries, working around the clock in the face of a pandemic.
I deliver medicine regularly. We deliver packages to the hospital regularly. I just feel, for lack of a better word, privileged that we're still able to work and do our job.
UPS has nearly 500,000 employees on the job around the world. Here are some still working in Bergamo, the epicenter of the coronavirus in Italy, singing in solidarity. Companies like UPS and Fresh Direct say they're following CDC and WHO guidelines for social distancing and hygiene protocols.
It's so crazy, to understand that how much people really need us now in this pandemic. There's a little risk coming outside every day to do your job, but I appreciate it. I kind of feel like a superhero in a sense, saving the world.
With face masks prioritized for hospitals, there are a few left for other critical workers. Morton Williams supermarkets in New York City have a small supply for their employees, but not enough, so they made their own.
Got a homemade mask for you. Yeah, you can take one.
Jennifer Camacho is one of more than 2 million grocery store workers across the country exposed to large groups of people each day.
I am definitely afraid of, getting this virus. I'm doing everything I can to protect myself, and I'm here for the community.
And her message to all of us:
take all your precautions, please. Keep us safe so we can keep you safe as well.
As uncertainty grows, these employees still find joy in their work.
I'm happy about the fact that we're able to keep the elderly, like our grandmother's age, to keep them in the house safe is a great thing.
In Fairfield County, South Carolina, 50% of students don't have access to the internet at home, according to District Superintendent J.R. Green. That's why they were quick to take the state up on an offer to provide Wi-Fi capable school buses for their students.
It provides an opportunity for our students who are working in a virtual e-learning environment, who do not have internet access in their homes, to be able to access the internet.
South Carolina is prepared to fit up to 3,000 school buses with Wi-Fi routers. All a county has to do is request them. The buses park for an allotted amount of time in various places around the county. On Thursday, one of the stops was in Rosemary Kennedy's apartment complex. She offered a reminder that not everyone can afford Wi-Fi at home. She added that it's a good thing the buses are coming around.
Here at China in Focus, we bring you first-hand information from inside China. Don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates.